The Tesla headquarters shimmered in the late morning sun, a monument to innovation with its glass and steel facade reaching skyward. Reporters, engineers, and influencers milled about the courtyard, buzzing with speculation. A massive stage had been erected in front of the main building, the Tesla logo gleaming above a sleek, black podium. Barron stood near the back of the crowd, adjusting his badge as he glanced up at the stage. He wasn't one for public events, but this wasn't just any announcement. This was Elon Musk's latest brainchild, the Tesla obstacle course competition. It was bold, ambitious, and, frankly, a bit ridiculous, a high-stakes showcase of Tesla's autonomous driving software in real-world conditions. Barron's stomach churned. He'd been one of the engineers behind the latest update to the software. It wasn't like his name would be in the spotlight, but if anything went wrong, he'd know where the fault lay. And that terrified him. A sudden hush fell over the crowd as Elon Musk stepped onto the stage, his signature casual confidence radiating through his stride. He wore a black jacket over a t-shirt, the kind of outfit that screamed disruption. "Welcome, everyone," Elon began, his voice amplified by hidden speakers. "Today, we're doing something a little insane." Laughter rippled through the audience. This isn't just a competition. It's a test of the boundaries of what AI can do. Autonomous driving isn't just the future, it's here. And we're going to prove it. Behind him, a massive screen lit up, displaying an animated overview of the obstacle course, tight curves, simulated construction zones, sudden stop signs, and even a faux pedestrian crossing. It looked grueling, even for the most advanced AI. Barron shifted on his feet. He couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. Maybe it was the stop sign placed oddly close to the starting line on the virtual map. Maybe it was the faint flicker he'd noticed on the screen when it first loaded. Or maybe it was just nerves. Elon continued, gesturing broadly. "We've got 10 incredible teams, each bringing their own Teslas to the table. Each car is equipped with our latest software, version 12.3, which, as you all know, is the most advanced autonomous system on the planet." He paused, letting the words sink in. Barron's hands clenched into fists. Version 12.3. His update. The one he'd spent sleepless nights debugging, agonizing over every decision. "And here's the twist," Elon added, his grin widening. "No human intervention. Once the course starts, it's entirely up to the cars. May the best Tesla win." The crowd erupted into cheers, and Elon stepped back, letting the screen take over with a dramatic countdown to the competition's start. Barron barely heard the applause. His gaze was fixed on that stop sign on the map, its position nagging at him like an itch he couldn't scratch. It was just a prop. Just part of the course. Nothing more. But as the crowd began to disperse, chatting excitedly about the event, Barron found himself rooted to the spot. He had the strangest feeling that the stop sign wasn't just part of the show. It was something else entirely. The countdown clock ticked down, and with every passing second, Barron's unease grew. The Tesla staging area buzzed with energy as participants prepared their vehicles. Rows of gleaming Teslas, each customized in ways that ranged from tasteful to borderline absurd, stood lined up like futuristic soldiers. Some were painted in sleek metallic hues, while others boasted elaborate designs, a crimson Model S with flames, a matte black Cybertruck adorned with neon stripes, even a Model X wrapped in holographic foil. Barron moved through the crowd, observing the competitors. A tall influencer in aviator sunglasses live-streamed his pre-race pep talk to his followers, his Tesla boasting oversized wheels and a mounted GoPro. Nearby, a middle-aged couple argued over the placement of their Team Road Warrior decals. "Barron. Is that you?" a familiar voice called out. He turned to see Dr. Eve Larson, a former mentor and one of Tesla's senior AI researchers. Her gray hair was pulled back into a tight bun, and she wore a sharp, no-nonsense expression. Despite her stern demeanor, Baron had always admired her. "Dr. Larson," he said, forcing a smile. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I'm not competing," she said, gesturing to a notebook she carried. "I'm observing. And I've got to admit, this whole thing feels unnecessary. A lot of moving parts. A lot of room for error." Baron nodded, his unease finding validation in her words. "I know what you mean. Something about this course, it just feels off." Dr. Larson raised an eyebrow. "Off how?" Before Baron could answer, an announcement crackled over the speakers. "Participants, please proceed to the starting line for the first run." "I need to check something," Baron muttered, distracted by a flash of movement on the leaderboard screen. Dr. Larson watched him with a curious expression as he hurried off. The crowd gathered along the sidelines as the obstacle course was unveiled. A drone soared overhead, broadcasting a live feed to the massive screen. The track was a masterpiece of engineering, a labyrinth of tight turns, sudden elevation changes, and surprise challenges. At the starting line, the competitors lined up their Teslas, engines silent but ready. Baron pushed his way to the edge of the crowd, craning his neck for a better view. His eyes locked onto the stop sign placed unusually close to the start. It looked innocuous, just an ordinary red octagon. But why put it there? Its placement made no sense. As the drone zoomed in, Elon Musk reappeared on the screen. "Ladies and gentlemen, the course is live. Let's see what our Teslas are made of." The crowd erupted into cheers as the first competitor, a cobalt blue Model 3, eased onto the track. Baron couldn't shake his focus from the stop sign. Was it angled strangely? Or was that a trick of the light? He made a mental note to investigate later, though he couldn't explain why it bothered him so much. The countdown began, and a hush fell over the crowd. 3, 2, 1. The blue Model 3 accelerated smoothly, its tires gliding over the asphalt. Cameras captured every angle as it approached the first challenge, a simulated construction zone with cones and flashing lights. The car slowed, swerved neatly around the obstacles, and continued forward. The crowd cheered. Baron allowed himself a moment of relief. Maybe everything was fine. But then, as the car neared the stop sign, something changed. The Model 3 hesitated, its sensors blinking rapidly. For a moment, it seemed confused, pausing, recalibrating, before abruptly veering straight toward the stop sign. The impact wasn't dramatic, more of a thud than a crash, but it was enough to silence the crowd. The car came to a halt, its lights dimming as though in defeat. Gasps rippled through the audience. The announcer tried to make light of it. "Well, that's unexpected. Maybe it's nervous for the first run, huh?" Baron's heart sank. He bolted to the nearest monitor, accessing the live telemetry. His screen lit up with sensor data, but nothing seemed amiss. No errors, no malfunctions. A second car rolled up to the starting line, a crimson Model Y. The crowd cheered hesitantly, eager to see a successful run. 3, 2, 1. The Model Y performed flawlessly through the first few challenges. It handled tight curves, sped through the simulated construction zone, and maneuvered around a faux pedestrian crossing with ease. But then it, too, reached the stop sign. Again, the hesitation. A flicker of its brake lights. A slight veer to the left. And then, as if compelled by some invisible force, it collided with the sign. The crowd murmured uneasily. Baron stared at the screen, dread pooling in his stomach. The telemetry told him nothing, but the behavior was undeniable. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. One by one, more Teslas attempted the course. And one by one, they all crashed into the stop sign. Baron gritted his teeth, his fingers flying across his keyboard as he tried to access deeper layers of the software. Somewhere in the code, there had to be an answer. Behind him, Dr. Larson appeared, her face pale. "This isn't a coincidence, Baron," she said quietly. He barely looked up. "I know." Dr. Larson placed a hand on his shoulder. "We need to figure this out. Fast." Baron nodded, his focus narrowing to a single thought: something was wrong with the stop sign, and he had to find out what. Baron hunched over a workstation inside Tesla's on-site tech lab, his fingers flying across the keyboard. The event continued outside, with competitors and spectators distracted by the chaos of Teslas repeatedly crashing into the same stop sign. Baron ignored the noise, his focus razor-sharp. Each crash told the same story: the cars performed flawlessly until they reached the stop sign. Then came the hesitation, a brief pause, followed by a deliberate turn straight into it. He replayed telemetry data from the latest run, scanning for anomalies. Still, nothing stood out. "This doesn't make sense," Baron muttered, his voice tight with frustration. Dr. Larson entered the lab, carrying a thermos of coffee and a notepad filled with frantic scrawls. "It's not just a bug," she said, setting the items down beside him. "It's a pattern. Something is overriding the system's decision-making." Baron glanced at her. "But there's no error in the code. I've checked everything from sensor calibration to neural network outputs. It's clean." Dr. Larson leaned over his shoulder, studying the screen. "What if it's not coming from the car's code? What if it's external?" "External?" Baron frowned. "Like interference?" She nodded. "Think about it. The stop sign is the only constant. What if it's broadcasting a signal that disrupts the AI's logic?" Baron's mind raced. It sounded far-fetched, but it wasn't impossible. Tesla's neural networks relied on real-time data from cameras and sensors. A signal embedded in the stop sign could theoretically hijack the system. "Let's test it," Baron said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. Dr. Larson smiled faintly. "That's the spirit." Under the cover of dusk, Baron and Dr. Larson approached the stop sign. The crowd had thinned, and the competition was temporarily paused while organizers scrambled to assess the bizarre crashes. The stop sign loomed ahead, casting long shadows under the track's overhead lights. Baron carried a diagnostic scanner, a sleek device designed to detect electronic signals and interference. He powered it on, and the device emitted a faint hum as it swept the area. "Anything?" Dr. Larson asked. "Hold on." Baron adjusted the scanner's sensitivity. A moment later, a spike in activity appeared on the screen. "There's something here," he murmured. They moved closer to the sign, and the signal grew stronger. Dr. Larson crouched beside it, running her fingers along the edges. "Here," she said, pointing to a small, almost invisible panel on the back. Baron pried it open, revealing a tiny transmitter embedded inside. It blinked with a faint red light. "It's broadcasting," he said, his voice tight. "A low-frequency signal. It must be interfering with the Tesla's object recognition algorithms." Dr. Larson's expression darkened. "This isn't random. Someone put this here on purpose." Baron's mind raced. Sabotage. But who? And why? His thoughts drifted back to a meeting weeks ago, when a Tesla executive had pushed for aggressive safety measures. Could that have been a cover for something more sinister? "We need to trace this signal," Dr. Larson said, snapping him out of his thoughts. "If we can find where it's coming from, we'll know who's behind this." Baron nodded, determination hardening his features. "Let's do it." The signal led them to a small, nondescript trailer parked at the edge of the competition grounds. It blended in with the other equipment, its unassuming exterior masking the fact that it was the source of the interference. Baron and Dr. Larson exchanged a glance before stepping inside. The interior was cramped, filled with monitors, servers, and wires snaking across the floor. At the center of the setup sat a man in a dark suit, his back to them as he typed furiously on a keyboard. "Don't move," Dr. Larson commanded, her voice sharp. The man froze, then slowly turned around. Barron recognized him immediately, Nathan Greaves, a high-ranking Tesla executive notorious for his cutthroat ambition. "Well, Greaves said, his voice oozing mockery. "Looks like the kids figured it out." "What the hell are you doing?" Barron demanded, his voice shaking with anger. Greaves smirked. "Proving a point. The software is flawed, and I'm making sure everyone sees that before it's too late." "You're sabotaging your own company," Dr. Larson snapped. "Why?" Greaves leaned back in his chair, completely unfazed. "Because it's better to tank a faulty system now than let it fail catastrophically later. If the public loses trust in Tesla, the whole company suffers. My method is unconventional, but necessary." "Your method is criminal," Barron shot back. Dr. Larson stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "We're shutting this down, and you're going to answer for what you've done." Greaves shrugged. "Good luck explaining this to Elon." At that moment, the door burst open, and 2 Tesla security guards entered, followed by none other than Elon Musk himself. Elon's expression was unreadable as he took in the scene. His gaze settled on Greaves. "Nathan," he said, his tone icy. "You have about 5 seconds to explain why you've hijacked my competition." Greaves stammered, his confidence evaporating under Elon's glare. I was protecting the company. The software." Elon cut him off. "Save it. You're done here." He turned to the security guards. "Get him out of my sight." As Greaves was escorted out, Elon turned to Barron and Dr. Larson. "You two have some explaining to do." Barron took a deep breath. "We found the transmitter in the stop sign. It was broadcasting a signal designed to disrupt the Tesla's AI. Greaves set it up to sabotage the competition." Elon nodded slowly, his expression softening. "Good work. Let's make sure this never happens again." Barron felt a wave of relief, but he knew the fight wasn't over. The competition wasn't just about showcasing Tesla's technology, it was about restoring trust. And that trust had to be earned. With Greaves escorted away, Barron and Dr. Larson dove back into the lab to recalibrate the Tesla software. The sabotage had exposed a vulnerability in the AI's recognition system, one they hadn't anticipated. "Okay," Barron said, typing rapidly. "I've implemented a patch to counteract external signal interference. The cars should prioritize visual data over unexpected broadcasts now." Dr. Larson nodded, reviewing his work. "That's solid. But we need to test it live. The audience is still out there, and they're expecting results." Barron sighed, wiping sweat from his brow. The weight of the day had drained him, but he wasn't about to stop now. "Let's do it. We'll put 1 car back on the course." Elon entered the lab, his presence as commanding as ever. "Is the system ready?" "It will be," Barron said. "But we need to address the crowd. They deserve to know what happened." Elon smirked. "I was hoping you'd say that. Follow me." Outside, the crowd was restless, murmuring about the strange events of the day. Elon took the stage, flanked by Barron and Dr. Larson. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elon began, his tone steady, "we've identified the issue behind today's crashes. A rogue signal was deliberately introduced into the course to disrupt our Teslas. The person responsible has been removed, and we're taking immediate steps to ensure this can never happen again." The crowd murmured, then fell silent as Barron stepped forward. He wasn't used to public speaking, but he knew this was his moment. "We've updated the software to make it more resilient to interference. We're about to run the course again, and this time, we'll prove what Tesla's technology can really do." The audience erupted in applause, their faith tentatively restored. The test car, a sleek silver Model S, rolled to the starting line. Baron and Dr. Larson monitored the telemetry from the sidelines, their eyes glued to the screen. 3, 2, 1. The car launched forward, its movements smooth and precise. It handled the first set of obstacles with ease, weaving through the simulated construction zone and navigating tight curves effortlessly. As it approached the stop sign, the crowd collectively held its breath. The car slowed, its cameras scanning the sign. For a brief moment, Baron felt his chest tighten. Would it hesitate? Would it crash again? But then, with a smooth motion, the Model S came to a perfect stop at the sign before accelerating forward, completing the rest of the course flawlessly. The crowd erupted into cheers, their earlier skepticism replaced by awe. Baron exhaled, his shoulders sagging with relief. Dr. Larson clapped him on the back. "You did it." "We did it," he corrected, a small smile breaking through his exhaustion. Elon grinned from the stage, raising a hand to quiet the crowd. "That," he said, "is the future of autonomous driving." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the Tesla grounds in a warm golden glow. The competition had resumed, and cars were now completing the course without issue. The earlier Sabotage seemed like a distant memory, though its lessons lingered in everyone's minds. Baron sat on the edge of the stage, watching the final run of the day. Elon approached, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "You've had quite the day, haven't you?" Baron chuckled, accepting a glass. "You could say that. But it's not just about today. There's still work to do." Elon raised his glass. "There's always work to do. But what matters is how you handle the unexpected. And you? You handled it like a pro." Dr. Larson joined them, her face softening with rare approval. "You should be proud, Baron. This wasn't just about fixing the software. It was about proving the system could adapt and improve." Baron nodded, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. He'd always been a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, but today, he'd stepped into the spotlight, and risen to the challenge. As the final car crossed the finish line, the crowd erupted into applause, their excitement palpable. The Tesla obstacle course competition was back on track, stronger than ever. Baron watched the scene, the cheers echoing in his ears. For the first time, he felt like he was part of something bigger, something that could change the world. And as the night sky filled with stars, he allowed himself to believe that the future wasn't just bright. It was unstoppable.